Welcome back to Kevin's Cocktail Minute. Tonight we're going to explore a traditional drink, a famous drink, one of the most popular drinks in the entire world. And I guess I could call this episode In Search of the Perfect Dry Martini. And on my website, kevinscocktails.com, there's an entry that on the blog that says In Search of the Perfect Martini. Before we get into what I think is possibly a perfect martini, I want to address this trend now that's going on all over the place about gluten. And there's a lot of people that are gluten intolerant and they want things to be gluten-free. And some people make fun of them, but it's wrong to do that. Don't do that. That's bad. Here's why whenever you go into a bar, you should specify that you want your martini gluten-free, okay? And here's why. If you don't do that, you might end up with this. That's a gluten martini. That's not gluten-free at all. You don't want that. The dry martini, this has been around for forever, and there's famous urbane wits of the last century. Winston Churchill, for example. His idea of the perfect martini was to whisper the word vermouth to a glass of gin. Then there's Louis Buñuel, the famous Spanish surrealist filmmaker. His favorite dry martini was to have a beam of sunlight pass through the bottle of vermouth into the glass of gin. There's trends in swanky cocktail bars now. People put the vermouth in an atomizer and they just spray it around the inside of a glass and then pour in the gin. Why not just say, I'll have a glass of cold gin, right? Okay, so I'm gonna say that you have to have a little bit of vermouth in your martini, otherwise it's not a martini. So the trend now in the cocktail culture is a 5-to-1 ratio. So if you have 5 half parts of gin and 1 half part of vermouth, that's 5-to-1. I like that, that's really good. But on those occasions when I want it just extra dry, like Winston Churchill, but not quite, I take the 5-to-1, and if you divide these all in half, that would be 10, 12. That would be 12 parts. So if you take one of these parts, these 2 parts here, and throw it over to this one, and you'll have just 1 part here, that's 11-to-1. And that's the ratio that I put in this martini. So we're going to take my favorite gin, Hendrick's from Scotland. It's infused with rose and cucumber. It's amazing. It's so delicious. And so here we're going to have 2 full parts. Now if I put a half part in, this will be the 5 of the 5-to-1 ratio. But then if I put a quarter part, that will be 11. And I'm using Dolin Vermouth de Chambéry, one of the oldest French vermouths. It dates back to 1823, and it's really beautiful. It's a very lovely taste to this. So I'm just going to use a quarter part of Dolin. Throw that in there. If you've seen some of the other episodes, like Skyfall and Severine, these were James Bond themed drinks. So I'm a big Bond fan. So of course the martini has to be shaken, not stirred. You want to make sure it gets nice and cold, nice and frosty. To make it absolutely perfect, your beautiful martini glass has been waiting in the freezer. Oh boy, it looks so good. Now finally, olives as a garnish. Now some people like 1, some like 3. I like just 2. And I like to just drop them in there because I hate when the pick is there when I'm drinking it. It pokes my eye and it's painful. This settles after a while and gets nice and crystal clear, but it's best to drink it right now because it's just right out of the freezer and it's fabulous. So this is my perfect dry martini, 11-to-1 ratio. Enjoy.